Hi, welcome to episode 2 of NYANCAST. I'm your host, Ben, joined again by
Hello.
Rub of Rub's Gaming
Hello.
and Ian, a new guest.
Hello there.
Now, we watched episodes 3 and 4 for this podcast, and episode 3, we're just going to jump right into this. I don't know if there's anything you guys want to go over before we get right into it, but
I think we should mention, we forgot to mention this last time, but Koneko is the first person we see in the
yes.
theme song.
And I think
that's important to note.
Yes, because I think she's very important to the psychology and philosophy of the show. Now, one of the things that is very noticeable about her introduction is that she actually loses her hair and gains it back. I think this is kind of reflecting her
aging. Perhaps?
No. I was thinking it had something to do with the anima and animus. This being Koneko's animus without her hair. If that makes any sense. Yeah. Because these characters they get broken down a lot in a kind of Jungian way, where you get their persona breaking down and into the unconscious. And in my opinion, I think Koneko kind of is a reflection of the mother archetype in the collective unconscious. I think that's kind of what she mirrors in the show.
I just feel like that putting her in the theme song first would kind of make it seem like the showrunners want her to be the main character, when I feel like Raku-chan is more the main character.
Who doesn't want Koneko-chan to be the main character? She's the
say
best
want,
girl.
I said, but like, who is the main character though? It's obviously Raku-chan, I think.
Well, again, I think introducing Koneko's important because she's a much less extreme character than the other ones.
Yeah.
And what she does is kind of a baseline for comparing the psyche of the other two main characters, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
My opinion on the part in the intro that you are referring to is that the animator didn't know how to indicate movement properly, and
I don't think that's the case.
Do you think?
You think it's intentional?
Of course, it's intentional.
Constantly.
Yes.
So like,
they move their feet and their hair and their
yeah.
Right.
Well, even later on in the scene, we see her hair at normal length moving in the wind. So like,
no, you're right. You're right. That's a valid point.
Too fast, XC. You know.
Yeah.
She very young.
Okay. So picking up, episode 3 picks off where we left off in episode 2, where Raku and Koneko are tracking the kidnapper's van to a undisclosed location, and
excuse me.
One of the line Raku-chan says while she's on the chase is "Hitoshi-san ya desu." Once again, excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's bringing me to tears again. I can't help it. This
I
show
know she's incredibly distraught, and she continues to praise Hitoshi-san despite him being kidnapped.
Right.
Now, Hitoshi-san suffered a kind of ego death in the last episode when his kidnapper kind of just ripped him from comfort and took away his reference for his personality. But
yeah,
he kind of starts to build that back up with his "you have no right to hold me captive" speech.
Yeah, we have freedom in this country.
Yeah.
Right.
This is a I shouldn't comment on that yet. We should actually get to that later.
Are you sure? We could talk about that now. I thought that was an interesting commentary.
Yeah, I okay, if you want to.
When Hitoshi's giving his speech, he says what is it? Something about freedom and it being the United States of and then he corrects himself to Japan.
He never says United States of. He says this is America, Japan.
Oh yes, my bad.
Like that's the exact quote.
I'm sorry, I didn't note that. But yeah, so Hitoshi does do that.
I think that's interesting. It shows that if it could show two things. One, America has recently occupied the area and left, and he hasn't gotten used to that idea yet. Or America has so much influence over Japan, a lot of the Japanese citizens are just considering themselves Americans at this point.
That's
is what I think it could mean.
It's a rather bleak outlook.
I mean, that's what I get out of it. And I mean, obviously, even in real life, they have a lot of influence over their culture.
I mean, that's a fair point. I guess that makes that scene all the more depressing, when when his kidnapper just shuts down his speech. He tells him, he says, "I have stripped you of your freedom," and Hitoshi-san blushes like this is some kind of like this is a good thing. Like he likes that he has no freedom anymore, which I think has a lot to do with the persona that he has to consistently um
Put up.
put up with. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. That's he's also kind of been stripped of that persona, I think, because
Yeah.
he's lost kind of like how he's supposed to act.
Yeah, he's lost kind of and he's finally able to just give that up entirely and be kind of a subservient figure.
You think Hitoshi-san is a bottom?
Yeah.
Power
layman's
bottom?
terms, no, absolutely not. Hitoshi-san is a complete bottom. He would never. I mean, he's just gonna lay there.
He's a soft bottom.
With
Oh yeah.
Here.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense with his character, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially later, when we get more into his strange obsession with his kidnapper. But
yeah.
Despite, seeming interested in his captor, once the Neko girls bust in it's kind of a pastiche of the shoujo anime, which this is kind of deconstructing. They bust in and they do kind of a Sailor Moon pose, and he says, "I have never been this glad to see you."
Obviously, he's not telling the truth in that scene.
You think he's lying?
I think he is. I think he's rather disappointed.
Yes, I think Hitoshi is lying in that scene. I think that he being kidnapped by this mysterious man has made him realize, and it's really crystallized the sort of homoerotic feelings that he has probably always had.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of a temporary outlet to play in the space, if you will, before being promptly ruined by Koneko-chan and Raku.
Obviously, he has to pretend like he's thankful, or else his persona that he's built up for them will be shattered.
That's a good interpretation. Yeah, mine. What I got from this is that he was genuinely glad to be saved from this situation, but more saved from himself, because you're right. If he goes through with this, there's really no turning back.
Yeah,
everything he's built up for himself, it crumbles.
He could actually be grateful too, since this means it's a situation he'll never have to think about again.
Yeah.
Although he does, as we see later, he does still think about it.
Also, these familiar reference points for the persona he's built up allow him to assume his role again.
Something that's interesting before the Neko girls break in is that you see the kidnapper's eyes.
Oh yes.
And yes, his eyes light up.
Yeah,
I remember.
Well, like you can see them at all, and this is the first time we see his eyes. The only other time we see his eyes that I'm aware of, at least, I've only seen up to episode 4, is when excuse me, I got a little distracted. Is when Hitoshi-san thinks about him. You see his eyes again, but much more clearly. There is no shadow this time, which maybe could represent him knowing the guy better. So that's why you don't see the shadow representing.
In a literal sense, I agree that the shadow being gone simply means that they are more familiar with each other. But in a moment, I want to go back to some Jungian concepts, and I think that might explain some of that too. But I thought it interesting. Hitoshi's he's very heterosexual, overcompensatingly so, as we see in the ending credits.
And in the first episode.
But in this arc, he is a damsel in distress, a generally female role taken in media, which I thought was interesting.
I feel that is just a clever role reversal by the creators.
I mean, it could be, yeah. I think that
shake up a stereotype in the genre.
Is that really a trope in Japan?
I mean,
that
it's a
I'm not
trope
aware of?
in most media, yeah, and in
Yeah,
Japan
I just
especially,
I
especially.
wasn't sure if that was almost if that wasn't just a Western thing or not.
Well, maybe that is the whole point, is that he's making the creator is making Hitoshi-san the damsel in order to subvert those tropes that have invaded from Western media.
Oh,
Oh,
that's a good
yeah,
point.
because there is. Yeah, I think there is a lot of maybe even too much Western influence in Japan
Yeah, it's a
right now.
commentary, it's a satire, if you will.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Satire is always funny. So.
When Raku is talking to Hitoshi after tying up his captor and saving him, the background is completely white, which having Hitoshi's arc here with his character broken down, I think it was representative of him being a people in general being a blank slate, reflecting the environment they're in, and Raku is that environment for Hitoshi in a way. That's what I interpreted from that.
I think in this episode and the last one, this is like the truest we see of Hitoshi-san so far.
Yeah,
See, I think the opposite. I think the fade to the white background is all for Raku-chan in her romanticized fantasy version of the situation.
We obviously see that Raku-chan is infatuated with Hitoshi-san.
unhealthily.
Yes, very much so, and I think that is
That's one reason why
unrequited.
she's so nervous around him in the first episode.
Yeah.
Yes, and I believe that is unrequited love, or at the very least, Hitoshi doesn't feel exactly the same
I
way.
think Hitoshi-san may kind of imply it, but only so people don't think that he's.
He's absolutely
Yes,
leading this
only to
girl
keep
on.
up the hetero facade.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, he's completely using her generally.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh yeah, and then we get these lines. I am very origato-ful, which is another
Another
Japanglish
example
phrase.
of how much influence America in this universe has on Japan.
It's
Although
really
what's interesting is that she replies with "denada." I don't know if this is like supposed to mean something, or it's just supposed to be something. Maybe Raku-chan just is taking Mexican and she wants to practice it. Maybe.
she took Mexican.
Do we know how old
I think maybe she
Raku-chan
could
is?
have, like in high school or whatever school she goes to.
So Ian, Raku-chan, the references to her age are limited.
She very young is the only thing.
She's
we've
very
heard
young.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perhaps she is merely a big fan of Dora the Explorer.
That's
Watches a lot of it
that is
on
possible.
television.
I mean, since her mental age is young, perhaps she still watches Dora on a
Oh,
regular basis.
yeah.
that might be drawing
Maybe
the
she has a
parallel.
young mental age.
Just like
Yeah,
Dora,
that could
young
be.
mental age. Yes.
Young mental age, Western media.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it was like traditional, if they're in Japan, she would be watching traditional, Japanese cartoons. But
Yeah.
instead, she's seeing this Western media taken from North America.
Obviously, Western influence in this is very strong already.
Yeah.
Hence the arigato-ful in the first place.
I think Arigato-ful is a great example of the writers seamlessly putting the Japanese language into the English language.
I think this is a satire for real life, personally. I think that maybe they're trying to critique perhaps a real life thing by showing an exaggerated version of what's actually happening. And how little of their own culture Japan even has anymore. I don't know, just something to think about.
I mean that is food for thought for sure.
That's an interesting point, yeah.
Yeah.
Now after the saving part, we see the invader drawn as small and weak, and he calls the girls kodomos, which means children in Japanese. Which he's saying, I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you kodomos.
I wonder if this is supposed to be a reference to even more Western media showing Scooby-Doo, showing how much power the West has over this version of Japan that we see.
Absolutely. I also think that the reference to Scooby-Doo is supposed to kind of show a famous friend group. Not too similar from our little mystery solvers in Nyan Neko Sugar Girls.
I
and
agree.
Kind of set that up as an ideal that is being broken down in both a Western and Japanese eye.
I agree.
I agree with that as well.
Now villain or intruder, we aren't given a name until much later, is on a black background, which I think perhaps reflects the Jungian idea of the shadow, or the
could represent his
unconscious
black
evil
nature.
everyone has. Exactly.
His evil heart.
Whereas Hitoshi
black
was on a
heart,
blank
some
slate.
people describe it.
Sometimes people are just inherently evil, perhaps.
And perhaps this man is, since he didn't know of Hitoshi-san's true nature.
No, he was
He awakened it.
he was simply an attempted rapist.
All
Here's
he
a
knows
theory.
is that Hitoshi-san did not want this.
Yeah.
I have a
Obviously,
theory
Hitoshi-san
about.
did, but that's only because this man woke something up in Hitoshi.
Yeah. What's your theory, Ian?
I have a theory about this invader character. It is a trope in, well, Western media and media from Japan that evil characters that do bad and evil things are typically portrayed not only as being evil but also being homosexual or bisexuals in some cases.
Maybe in more dated cultural pieces.
Yeah.
To represent how evil, decadent they are.
This
exactly
somewhat subverts that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Do you think? Yeah.
Yeah,
is
because
the invader
unknowingly
character
does something good.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Sort of take on that.
He's not a good person, but
no.
He didn't hurt Hitoshi. He was simply
he attempted to, though.
I don't know if he attempted to. When he approached Hitoshi to engage in some fun, as he put it, there was very little violence.
What was going to happen?
Yeah, we don't know.
He made him get on his knees.
He was probably about to pull out a DS for all we know.
Hitoshi, actually, I think that might go into some like victim blaming territory, but Hitoshi was completely submissive, and we as the audience know that he was into it.
He blushed.
Yeah. He's just embarrassed because he's about to be ashamed.
He had the same blush on his face that Raku-chan has when she's speaking to him at the end of the episode.
Exactly.
We know that is
yeah,
a blush
I agree. That is important to note.
So
yeah.
That a blush that when Raku-chan is talking to him is noticeably not there for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
He rarely emotes more than a kind of smug grin, except when in the presence of this attempted, sexual assailant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, Raku speaks to Hitoshi in this episode with markedly less difficulty than she does in any previous episode. I think that might be due to her. She might be either acclimating to having these feelings more, or in this instance, Hitoshi might just not be as imposing a figure because of what immediately preceded this.
Perhaps, yeah. That could be why she feels more brave than usual. This really humanized him in her eyes.
Yeah.
Got rid of the a bit of the fantasy that she's built up in her head over him.
Of him being this
that's what I thought.
Strong man who will always fight back anyone who attempts to hurt him or her.
Exactly.
Or perhaps this whole endeavor, this whole encounter, has strengthened her own confidence in herself to be able to.
Oh, I didn't think of that. Because she just
accomplish things.
Yeah, it's very empowering.
On her own.
Yeah, again, because she was not the damsel in distress; it was Hitoshi. It's a good spin. It's an interesting spin. What does the empowerment of being the hero do to a female character, and what does the helplessness of the traditional female character do to the male character? That's a very interesting take on the.
Yeah, these are very good points that we're making.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, at the end of the episode, Hitoshi is strangely wordy, and I think he was being very genuine when he was telling Raku-chan how appreciative he was of her. Again, the background is white, but with these seeping flesh-colored border. I think this was him trying to hold his basal self in place so he could be the self under the the ego and the id and all that, and he was trying to keep his basal self. But then after
I think he could have been genuinely grateful since he knows that in the eyes of Raku-chan, she just saved him from a very uncomfortable situation, even if he would have wished that this had happened.
yes.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment.
Like,
I
it's
think
thought that counts.
Yeah, I think he genuinely thinks of Raku-chan and Koneko-chan as like his friends, and he wants to see them succeed and do good things and be more confident. And so he is
I believe
appreciative, genuinely, but
Yeah.
also has that twinge of disappointment that he wasn't able to.
Yeah.
Have some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think on
Because of those meddling Kodomos.
Yes.
yeah. At the base level, I think I agree. I think he loves his friends, he appreciates them, but as you build on the layers of the self up to the persona, I think Hitoshi puts himself above them, and I think he uses them. But again, at the base level, he does appreciate them. He is friends with.
I think someone we could compare Hitoshi-san to is Greg from Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
I mean,
obsessed with popularity and using his friends to just climb up a chart.
Yes, and likely a closeted homosexual. Yes.
Yeah. I was also going to reference that, but you did it for me. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I get the parallel there. I think Hitoshi is a much more interesting character. He has a lot more development.
Obviously, yeah.
You got to break him down
I
more.
also don't think that Hitoshi is a sociopath entirely. I just think that he may not have regard for...
I think he has issues emoting and
it.
empathizing, but I don't think he's a sociopath.
Because he obviously
You think he's autistic?
Care.
Oh, that perhaps.
Maybe most people accept. Maybe Koneko isn't, because she's, portrayed as the most mature out of all the three.
Perhaps. Let me give this context to the show in general. Bear.
You alright?
Yeah, are you okay?
It's just real emotional.
Yeah, it is.
I understand, buddy.
Koneko-chan is their caretaker.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
which is ironic because her name means kitten, as we established last time.
Raku-chan and Hitoshi-san are high to mid functioning autistic people.
I think I don't.
And she creates Koneko-chan creates these scenarios in order for them to live out these fantasies and experience things
I was
in a way
to
that is
disagree.
comfortable to them.
I was going to disagree, but then I realized that Koneko did seem really calm when we first hear.
Yeah.
Because she knows it's going to be all right in the end. That's why
I have some notes about Koneko enabling
care.
them in the next episode. Notes. I agree with that somewhat. I don't think their autism is necessarily intended. I think they're simply kind of reflections of art. Raku, I would agree on some level is meant to be disabled to some extent. It's referenced by Koneko a few times, and just her actions are so childlike and impulsive that.
She still watches Dora the Explorer.
Yes.
I haven't even seen that show myself in many years.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
No,
yeah,
it's all right.
Yeah, we're not saying it's not. I just mean I haven't seen it in a bit.
Now, Hitoshi-san turns around to walk away in like this dramatic exit, and then he brings back his catchphrase, which indicated to me that he is back to his persona, status quo. He's a cool guy again. He's back. Rawr. Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with you on this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Episode ended there. It was pretty good. It was the end of an arc, and there was a bit of a hiatus between this episode and episode 4.
There's kind of been a hiatus between all of them so far.
I have one final note, one thing about episode 3.
Yeah.
Hitoshi-san is thick.
Oh yeah. This
I think this is fan service for the
absolutely.
men and the women and the men in the audience, as we've now discovered.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
I agree. I think this show was made with the female gaze in mind, generally. But
And
so
male.
it's more of a what do they call that? Shoujo.
Shoujo, yeah.
Shoujo than Shoujin.
Shonen, yeah. It's
Shonen.
much more of a shoujo. And it's kind of a deconstruction of that genre, as I said.
Yeah. Like a Sailor Moon, if you will.
Yeah, they even did the Sailor Moon pose earlier. Yeah.
They referenced that.
Now, episode 4 was fairly long compared to the first few, and I think a lot happened in it.
Sure.
Now,
that is definitely a take.
This episode, it started after the intro. It started on a significant note because Koneko-chan is the first we see her in bed.
I just want to say this whole opening sequence is my favorite part of the entire series so far.
Really?
Yes. This whole opening first, was it 2-3 minutes after the intro?
I think it's only like maybe a minute and a half. It's not that long. It's standard anime intro length.
No, I mean after the intro.
Oh, okay. You're talking
the actual episode.
Right. Okay,
the first 2 minutes are my favorite part in the whole series.
Yeah, it's kind of a powerful moment. I agree. But Koneko-chan, we see her in bed. This is significant because she's the last of the main characters we see in bed. We've seen the other two in bed, and this, I think, emphasizes right before and after a long period of unconsciousness. And she Raku's up, she greets her, Raku-chan goes outside, and her head is off put in like this super unsettling, kind of horrific way, which I think just has to do with her cat girl anatomy. But it indicates to the audience past the fourth wall that something is off, and that something is this squirrel that she grabs.
Oh no, not this. This is a really tragic moment in the show for me.
I know.
It's hard to talk about.
This is my favorite moment in the whole series.
That's messed up, bro. How is this favorite?
She grabs the squirrel. Well, she sees the squirrel, right?
Yeah.
And she acknowledges how
cute it is.
Kawaii,
Sugoi and Desu.
Sugoi.
Yeah.
Yes.
And smothers it in betwixt her bosom for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's still alive, to be honest.
Yeah. And then it cuts to a close-up of the squirrel sinking its teeth into her arm.
It's kind of a gruesome shot.
It definitely, it's very hard to watch.
I appreciate the reason this is my favorite is because I appreciate the direction, the art direction for this part, because they could have just, like in many other parts of the show, they could have just done a quick the squirrel's head moves and Raku-chan starts crying or whatever.
Yeah.
But instead, time to animate the squirrel leaning back, showing its teeth and sinking them into her arm.
The squirrel is unnatural. It has fangs, like it's snake fangs.
It does.
Yeah.
It has fangs like a vampire or a snake.
We find out what's wrong with it later. When
we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah,
I'm looking forward to that.
I have.
It's so dramatic in its direction. It's what cinematography is not the right word, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
The overall delivery in general, how it's shot, the art, the voice
the
acting,
composition of the scene.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Everything works perfectly.
Now, my interpretation of the squirrel, I have something written out. I think the squirrel represents generally vices we all have, but Raku, having a young mental age, finds her vices in things that are kawaii, desu, sugoi, as she calls Hitoshi these things on a regular basis.
She does, yeah.
The squirrel, as she even states,
the
is
squirrel
all of
could
these
represent
things.
her relationship with Hitoshi.
Oh, that's
an interesting
and how
theory.
it may actually be toxic.
Oh,
bad.
that's clearly a toxic relationship. But I was trying to make this more broad for a kind of a humanistic view. But the vices, she grabs onto it. She holds her vices too close, right? She holds too tightly. She pursues them too far, and too much of a good thing. It's an old saying, and her pursuit ends up just
harming her,
biting her back. Yes, it ruins her. The subsequent sequence of her screaming in agony and anguish is the rage at the squirrel. She's not angry at the squirrel. Never does she have any hatred towards the squirrel.
She's angry at the world.
She's angry at herself. It's a betrayal of self to pursue these vices to this end. Yes.
Like how could I have done this to myself?
This immature self-indulgence is literally the death of her. Spoiler, but it's
Wait,
this immature inability to
what? That is spoilers.
vices
What in the world?
It haunts her until her death. So,
bro, I did not know this happened. What? That's not cool.
Yeah, Rub. This does not have a positive ending. It's pretty clear that the ending of this show will be pretty bleak.
I see.
I'm sorry. It wasn't a major spoiler because it's a pretty well circulated fact that the main character does not make it through this series. But I won't disclose how it happens. But it is this horrible character flaw. Yeah. And even after this emotional devastation, she returns to thinking about Hitoshi. Her weakness doesn't change even after this.
No, she doesn't learn her lesson, obviously.
No. It was kind of a depressing scene.
Yeah, I agree. It was very hard, very hard.
Its significance cannot be
it was painful
overstated.
To watch, really.
Yeah.
Just because of how emotional the delivery of it is. I mean, kudos to the actor.
Oh, she did a very good job.
Absolutely.
Isn't Soap the one who voices her?
I believe it's soap opera. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I was unaware of that. They put everything into that, and it shows.
You can feel their diaphragm tensing with the breath they exhale.
You can even hear the mic straining to pick up the misery.
Yeah.
Goosebumps, man. Goosebumps.
I think that this could also represent Japan letting foreign influence so close to them and then it hurting them in the end with a lack of cultural homogeneity, perhaps.
The fact that they welcomed us with open arms and we
got too close to them.
We returned that kindness with indoctrination and harm.
And now they are in pain, screaming, and they don't know why, and they still don't learn their lesson.
We are the squirrel. Is that what you're saying?
I think America is the squirrel.
I think that's kind of an extreme interpretation, but I guess to each their own. I mean, but I mean, if that's what you're getting and you like that, then go for it.
I really think it's what's the truth is.
Now, Koneko-chan is best girl in my opinion, and she does this really cute going to the store song. I really like that little bit of character moment.
I do like that song. It's very endearing.
Her voice is actually probably the most soothing of the voices on the show in my opinion.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would definitely agree. Well, I don't know. Hitoshi-san's voice pretty soothing too. Not gonna lie.
Well, again, I think
Rawr.
You have a fair point, but in my opinion, it's Koneko all the way. But I'm biased. Now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
When Koneko talks with Hitoshi, it's always incredibly cordial. Her guard's always up, and she's incredibly mature in the face of his arrogance.
Senses something that's off about him.
Yeah, and
not being very honest.
She's very calm in the face of his arrogant, overcompensating flirtations that he does all the time to every female that we've seen him near, which is only a sample size of 2, but generally we get that idea. Now, Koneko supports Raku's twisted obsession. She like tells Hitoshi about how Raku thinks highly of her, and Hitoshi tells her to tell Raku things back, and she will, but Koneko's aware something is wrong. She's picked up on Hitoshi's like altered state.
Paying attention.
She asks him what's wrong, and I think she knows more than she lets on generally about most things. Because Hitoshi now has a twisted obsession of his own, and we get a kind of look into his thought process. Another just super homoerotic scene.
Definitely.
Of this still of his kidnapper from the previous episode.
Is it really a still? I think there's a little bit of movement in there.
Oh, I mean, it's just one image, but they do some things with it to make it more interesting. But you get the idea.
Yeah.
Now, Hitoshi goes to their house, and we get another incredible, just a long shot of Hitoshi's bird's feet, as we coined the term last episode.
Yeah, his bird's feet.
Yeah.
Shot of him walking through their house in his fucking big disgusting bird feet.
Now,
what do you mean?
There's a reason why. The first time we see these, they're not nearly as we don't see them for as long, and we don't see them as grotesque. But this time it's worse. It's a longer shot, and they're worse looking. His imperfection is growing. Yes.
Yeah. His imperfection is getting worse.
Yes. But
his homo sexual tendencies are welling up inside of him, causing his feet to swell.
No.
I like
they're
that.
a metaphor.
No, I actually like that as an interpretation.
It's
a metaphor.
It's a metaphor.
Yeah, it's a metaphor.
Not
they don't have to be an imperfection. He just sees them as that way because he's in the culture he lives in, which it seems is rather American. Heterosexuality is looked up upon. It's a good thing. Now, when he goes into Raku's room, he doesn't look at her. He doesn't even face her during the whole conversation. He's looking to the side.
Almost like he can't really stand to look at the female physique, perhaps.
I think that might be a literal one, but I think it's also that he doesn't really care that she's deathly ill.
I don't know if I agree with that interpretation.
When she's telling him about how sick she is, he just has this plastered grin on the entire time. I think it's just him being unable to connect on a very human level with people.
Okay, I guess I see that.
Because his facial expressions are generally limited, and he doesn't seem to react normally to a lot of situations.
Do you think perhaps he acts this way because he knew
about the squirrel?
He knew what would happen.
Maybe the squirrel was sent by him to.
I think that's a stretch, but I think your interpretation of it being the unhealthy relationship they had makes sense as a metaphor. He knew that this was unsustainable. He knew it was going to end in ruin, but he's going to keep exploiting it.
That's messed up, Hitoshi.
Then we get this emphasis on time, which becomes more important later when they say 10 minutes go by. It's kind of this oppressiveness of time. They use these time slides. This becomes a bigger theme later. I don't know if I should go over it yet, but what
happens in that 10 minutes?
They get
in that interim
dancing sushi.
Yeah, she loves what's it called again?
Dancing sushi.
Dancing sushi. Yeah, she loves the dancing sushi, as she says.
She feels undeserving, and she says as much, and she's overly grateful for the food.
I think that's interesting that she doesn't think she deserves it.
We kind of get that her self-esteem is pretty low by how she feels. Yeah.
It doesn't really help the way that Hitoshi-san treats her.
No, not at all. She then says she feels better, and then at the end of the episode she says, if only that were true, or like if only I was really okay. She's just saying that to make them feel like their time was worthwhile, the time that she felt she was unworthy of. So it's just another.
She does not feel worthy at all wasting Hitoshi-san's time, as he is on such a high pedestal to her.
Yeah, Hitoshi. A line that was kind of weird to me that Hitoshi said was, "It was our pleasure, Raku-chan." I don't think this was a manipulative line.
They're both overcompensating.
I think maybe Koneko told him to say this because she is kind of puppeting their relationship, because she, I don't know, in a twisted way thinks it will bring her, the person she's caring for, some kind of happiness.
Yeah. She doesn't know it's actually causing the problem to begin with.
Or she doesn't, she thinks it'll...
Or she doesn't care.
Yeah,
that's
I'm trying to figure out how she would not... Because she's doing this because she cares for Raku, but she thinks that, I don't know, the momentary happiness she gets from interacting is worth the emotional toll it's taking on her overall.
I don't think that makes much sense, but maybe Koneko isn't thinking very clearly.
Perhaps
maybe her stress is getting to her, and she's not thinking as clearly when it comes to taking care of her friend.
Perhaps Koneko-chan is a sadist and enjoys seeing people in pain, physical or otherwise. And so puts Raku-chan in these situations
that could also be why she didn't really care to rescue Hitoshi-san. Yeah, because
they are in a very twisted relationship, but I have often seen Raku as the domineering one. But this is a good interpretation.
Raku made sure that she had the better mochi ice cream.
They are both they're both taking from each other. Koneko just in a more subtle way.
Yeah, she's obviously the more subtle adult one who's more critical thinking and stuff.
And now after that, Raku says that she wishes she was okay. The episode ends, leaving us on a bit of a unhappy note. But
I mean, we didn't really leave on a happy note last time either, to be fair.
It was more of an exciting note, really. It wasn't too...
Yeah.
Any final thoughts for the audience?
I can't really think of anything, except I think I'm definitely excited to see this theory we have about Koneko maybe trying to ruin Raku subtly. I think it's very interesting.
I'm excited. I think my second favorite character, the nurse, shows up pretty soon. She's one of my favorites. So I think we'll get into her next time, but I'm not sure. Thanks for watching. We'll be back.
Goodbye, everyone.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Sayonara.
Sayonara, Tomodachis.